I'm Marcy Barron, and this is Mondays with Marcy. I'm your homeward bound guide to everything 5D living. I can't wait to share with you tips and tools to guide your personal transformation so that you can live a life that thrills you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Mondays with Marcy. I am Marcy Barron, your host, and this week I am so excited to introduce Erin Nicole Porter. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you for having me, Marcy. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I just want to say and tell everybody who you are. First of all, this is my soul sister. That's number one. Number two, Erin literally came in and changed the trajectory of my life as my business coach. And what happened and ensued, I feel like I got on a rocket ship with you. And what made me every single week working with you for almost, I guess, 2 years. I don't even know how long it was, all the different things. We went on retreat together in Sedona, like the two of us. I did a VIP weekend with you there. I went to San Diego. You came in and surprised me for my book signing. It's like this woman, and we have a birthday a day apart. This beautiful soul is such an inspiration, such a beautiful being in this planet, and planted the seed for me to start a podcast even way before I did. So I just want to thank you. This is a full circle moment.
It is such a full circle moment. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Erin is a business coach, but what I love about Erin is it's not about strategy. It's not about do this, do this, do this. She is the most authentic. You are the most authentic person, and you incorporate at the base of everything energy work and trauma work and inner child work and attachment work. And that's what I love, because anything, which is what you taught me, your business is a lens in which shows you pretty quickly what needs healing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So maybe you could just speak to that for a moment.
Yeah, it's so true. I think when we start businesses, we don't realize, at least I didn't, that it was going to be this massive personal growth journey.
Yes.
I had heard of personal development and kind of dove into all of that. And I was like, it's such a mirror. It's a mirror when your launches are going well. It's a mirror when your income is doing well. It's a mirror when it's not. It's just this huge mirror of, okay, whatever's happening externally in my business is mirroring something that's happening internally. And until you look at that, I mean, yeah, you can do the strategy and you can do the things, but you're not creating like this sustainable feel good way of actually running it that can last over time until you start to look at everything that's being reflected back to you.
Yeah. And I just, that, and you taught me the business is the clearest one, but it can be through relationships. It can be through what's even going on in your career if you don't own a business, right? If in the workplace, all of the places and spaces where it shows up. And one of the things that you taught me a lot about, which is what I want to talk about with our listeners, is attachment theory.
Mm-hmm.
And when you brought this up to me, my mind was blown. I was like, there's this thing. And I saw it in my own attachment, in how and you'll explain it. And then like with my kids. So what is attachment theory and why should we care?
Yeah, a great question. So first thing I always recommend for people to notice is one that even us talking about it can be a little activating. So if
Mm.
you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I resonate with that, or I feel that, like take a moment, take a pause if you need to, and kind of, care for yourself. The second thing that I always recommend is the book Attached. I think that that's a great place to dive into this material. So if you're like, okay, I hear you and what you're saying, and I need a little bit more, information, start with those places. But attachment theory, kind of in the grand scheme of things, when they were studying attachment theory. They were looking at how a baby explored the room when the mother either left or the mother was there. And they wanted to see kind of what happened. And basically, long story short, they found out that, some babies felt safe to explore the room. Some had more outward anxiety. Some might have had outward or had anxiety, but expressed it more internal, or they weren't as concerned when the mother left the room. Everybody kind of had this different way that they expressed, and some had a little bit of maybe both. And so they developed, secure attachment style from that, anxious attachment style, avoidant, and disorganized, which is like a little bit of anxious and avoidant. Those are kind of like more of like the common ones. If you break it down in some of the theories, they'll have different types within the types. Um, so that's kind of like the basis of it, and it's basically how we explore relationships. And so if we are, more anxiously attached in a relationship, we might have anxiety that pops up within our own bodies, or fear of abandonment or rejection. If we're running more of an avoidant style, we might kind of have a little bit of a wall up, or don't want to go there with vulnerability or feel our emotions. If we run more of a secure type, we're able to kind of just like be in connection. Things might pop up. It's not that we're like immune to triggers or those sorts of things, but we can be in connection. We can be in relationship. And what I always say is like douse flames before they become a fire. So we can
Mm.
communicate well, have strong boundaries, that sort of thing. And then anxious and avoidant runs a little bit of both. So there's more kind of like fear, a little push pull that might come up within that. So that's kind of grand scheme of the types and where it was formulated from.
Wow, right. And when I heard those things, I was like, yeah, like the bells go off. It's like, oh, hmm. So, why do we even need to know this? Like, why is it important to know if you are a secure, an anxious, an avoidant, or an anxious, avoidantly attached person? Why?
Yeah,
Why does it even matter?
good, great question. So if you think about your life, you're in a relationship in every area of your life. You're in a relationship with a partner, possibly. You have friendships, you have business, you have colleagues. If you're working in a like a corporate setting, any area of life, you have a relationship. And how you're navigating your relationships and how you are able to sustain those relationships, you're constantly on a healing journey. And when you're noticing what's popping up in your own body, when you're in relation and when you're in connection, it mirrors a lot to you. Someone's not texting you back, or if sales not coming in, or you're going through a difficult time with a friendship or whatever it might be, you're gonna have you can't not be in life and not be in a relationship at some point. And so it's mirroring everything back into you. And what, the big core of it is to be able to find, more safety in your system, find more and build up that secure attachment so you can hold more goodness and hold more well-being and start to increase your capacity for good things. A lot of people think it's just kind of about understanding the communication style, and that stuff is great. But when you're able to actually heal that and you're in a more secure attachment in your body, you can open up yourself for more.
Mm.
One of the big things that people will kind of discover within their attachment style and in healing is what's called developmental disappointment. And one of my mentors calls this, or he explains it as like death by a thousand paper cuts. Where when growing up, if you had even just like the littlest of like letdowns or disappointments or things that happen, over and over again, it's kind of like when you get a paper cut. And
Hmm.
after time, once you've had, many paper cuts, like even though they're little, like they still make an impact on you, like, ouch, that hurts. And so when we're able to heal that, we show up different. We show up different in our relationships, in our business, in our, romantic partners, whatever it might be. And you can, I just feel like, live more.
That's an amazing way to put it. And like the thing that you're implying that I want to just say is it is healable. It is changeable. You are able to, let's say, if you recognize you're an anxious attachment And in business, that would look like checking the sales or people messaging me, blah, 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 blah. Or if it's in relationship, why isn't that person texting me back? And, just feeling all this anxiety. When you heal that, you must just, and I know because I have and am and always in the process, you know, um, feel so much better, right? It's just a different way of living.
It is. It is. And I feel like you can just show up with it's almost like the background noise isn't always running anymore, whether it's more
Mm.
anxious, whether it's more avoidant, and you can really be more present. Like I even think back to myself, let's say like 4 or 5 years ago before I really started diving into attachment work. Even right now in this moment, I'd be like, oh gosh, am I saying everything right? Am I describing? There would be that noise that would be running. I could still show up and present what I wanted to, but it's like that noise starts to just kind of turn down in the background, and you get so much more presence out of life and so much more well-being and connection, and yeah, I feel like you can just live again.
Yeah, you're just there's not constantly worried or constantly in fear of, you know, something, whatever the attachment style is. So, so you went over them like a little basic, right? So let's just go like a little bit deeper. So an anxious attachment is somebody who was the child who was couldn't relax and explore the room,
Hmm.
always was looking for where mom was.
Yep.
And how does that show up in an adult's life?
Yeah. So, kind of as we started to touch on within like an anxious attachment in the adult life, I'm just going to use kind of relationship here for a moment. So, let's say your partner is going out and, going out with friends or going out and doing their own thing. With more of an anxious attachment style, you're kind of running the how do I want to say it? Like this, almost like are they going to leave me? Is everything going to be okay? Are they talking to other people? Can I trust them? Are they going to come back? What are they thinking about me? Are they happy? It's just kind of this
Right.
like, I mean, you can even feel it when I kind of like drop into it to describe it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of this like, is everything going to be okay? There's just a lot of fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of that loss. And so they might come out a little bit more outwardly anxious, and it might feel some realms of like codependency, maybe a little bit more needy on that, and codependent in the way of like, I need you for me to be able to be okay.
Right.
So that's kind of the ways that it can look in relationship. Very similar in business, and you were kind of alluding into some of this, where if you have a slower month in business, you might be running with more of an anxious attachment style. Where are the clients? Where is everything going to come? With money, is it all going to be okay? Is it going to come back to me? Fear of like releasing it, or letting it go. It's just kind of this like very I'm trying to think of the best word here. Like I can kind of point to it in the energy, and so I'm trying to put words into it.
I
Where
know what you would tell me. It's a grasping as
yes,
opposed to holding. That's
thank
what you
you.
taught me. It's like, God,
Yes,
chasing, chasing, chasing
very
energy.
much chasing. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much chasing, and you can feel it externally. I'm trying to like kind of mold myself into it while I describe it because it helps me to feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of gripping, a lot of reaching, and a lot of just that graspiness. Where an avoidant attachment style, they might feel some of that internally, but it's not going to be as outwardly expressed. So the
Hmm.
avoidant's going to have a little bit more time feeling more of the emotions. Sometimes they can run anxiety, but it's going to be more internal anxiety, like disconnected from emotions or feeling. Uh, they might feel a lot of those like vulnerability hangovers, where if they do share something, they're sharing more on like a big crisis, but then afterwards, like, did I say too much? Like,
Right.
how, should I have shared all of that? There is still that fear of rejection or abandonment. So they won't maybe open themselves up to that because it's again, what if that person leaves me, or what if it doesn't stay? So they kind of close themselves off, where an anxious attachment is going to kind of more latch on. So there's this withdrawal, there's this pullback that happens more within an avoidant attachment style.
Yeah, and from what my understanding of an avoidant is, they say they want connection, but deep down they're preventing themselves from even getting into it as a self-protection mechanism.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I'll leave you before you leave me. Like, I want you, but I don't want you. It's like, I want your
Right.
love. I want you to be close to me, but also don't get too
Right,
close to
right.
me.
And then
Yeah.
the anxious avoidant is the combo flambo.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that they are anxious avoidant, but what they don't realize is that they are more one or the other, because the anxious attachment percentage wise is a lot smaller
Right,
because of the outwardly facing piece of it versus internally facing. So someone who's avoidant still can have anxiety. They're just expressing it in a different way. So like more of the disorganized attachment style, they're really working on a lot of like trust within people, a lot of being able to open up. They do run tendencies of both, and that's normally because like the caregiver kind of maybe ran that way too,
right.
or if they had really extreme differences in the caregivers that they had, they might also experience that. So it's definitely possible to run bits and pieces of both.
And I know the book, which you had me read the book,
Mhm.
um, is a quiz. Like there's a full intake, so you can get the book attached and then figure out, which one you are by the tendencies.
Yeah.
So what occurs to me as we're talking, is it possible to be securely attached, let's say in relationship with friends and women, and then have, you know, like an anxious or an avoidant attachment, let's say in personal relationships, like if you were, a typical, like a cis woman like myself. That's what
Mhm.
I'm thinking about that right now. I'm like, I feel really secure and solid in my friendships with my women, and then when it comes to dating and men, I'm like, I see, the other kind.
Yeah.
um and I guess that might be related to the, like, the masculine wound. Is that something that's possible?
Definitely, definitely. I get asked this a lot. And, some people will run more of a similar pattern all across the board: money, business, relationships, friendships. So we'll kind of use that, like those four categories. Now, some people, and again, based on the experiences that they've had growing up, might feel really secure in partnerships because maybe that's what was mirrored to them. But maybe in friendships, they're feeling a little bit more avoidant because that's kind of the connection growing up maybe wasn't as strong versus money. So some people will run similar and some will run different, and it's just based off of our lived experiences. You
Okay.
have beautiful, very, I'd say, like secure group of friends that are very loving, very present, very much always there for you. That's mirroring a healthy dynamic.
Yeah.
Where in romantic partnerships, again based on lived experiences, that wasn't mirrored. So it is going to be probably a little bit different
Yeah.
in those areas, but just based on our experiences, definitely.
Yeah, it's so true. Positive partnership in marriage and relationships was not shown for me, my pretty much my whole life. And it's interesting with my kids and their dad, we co-parent really well. And my kids see that partnership, in a different way, in an alternative way, but it was very much conscious, because of that. Okay, so now that we're aware of this, how would someone start to heal this? They realize they may have an anxious, they may have an avoidant, or a combo flambo in one area, in all areas. What do they do?
I love combo flumbo.
I always give you the words.
I know, I love it. So it has to happen in connection. It's one of
Mm.
those things where with attachment trauma, it would the rupture happened in connection, so the repair does have to happen in connection. You can learn a lot of really beautiful techniques to help calm your nervous system, but to do true deep healing work in it, it does require connection, because you have to work with that like more secure base and be able to be mirrored and process. And then the step after that is like you actually still got to go out into the world and experience the things. I think what I see sometimes people do is they go on these beautiful internal healing journeys, but then they forget, like, okay, I still got to put myself out there in business. I still got to like go date and like date the right people or the wrong people or whatever, and experience it and let your like capacity in your system be able to work that. Um, so reading the book Attached, obviously great place to get more of the awareness of it. And then from there, start to notice your patterns of, oh, okay, I'm noticing right now that I am feeling a lot of anxiety when my partner leaves, or I'm not really wanting to open up when I'm in new friendships because I'm afraid that those people are going to leave, or whatever your story is. I think you can agree with me on this one. Like awareness is the first key to
Right.
everything. And I think it's so helpful just as you're kind of navigating to go, oh, okay, I'm not going to judge it. I'm going to bring it and hold it in love and compassion. I'm noticing that I'm feeling this way, and start to allow yourself, even in the littlest bit, to communicate what it is that you might be feeling or what it is that you might be needing.
Mm.
So, let's say, Marcy, something happened in our friendship, and I'm new into this work. I might even say, okay, to myself, like I'm noticing that when Marcy isn't as communicative with me, I start to feel like I did something wrong, and I'm making it about me. So I have that awareness, and now I could even let her know that, like, Marcy, I'm noticing when this happens, this is how I respond to it. And,
Mm.
I'm not needing you to like say anything or fix anything. I just want to share. I just want to be open. Because
Right. This is what's happening for me.
yeah, this is what's
Yeah.
happening for me. And presencing that begins to heal it too, because we're doing that in connection. If I try to fester and work through it all by myself, I might get somewhere, but I'm not gonna get what I need, which is be that reach and that repair, or that when there's a rupture, that repair, that reach and that connection, or that need being met. And give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, go slow with it, because it's gonna feel really uncomfortable. It's not fun to have difficult conversations or share what you're feeling, or for my more avoidant people to even open up in that way. But
Right.
do it in the places where you know that it's safe. Like
Mm. That's what I was going to say. Because with
yeah.
certain people, they can't even hear that.
Mhm.
They would be like, "Oh my God, that's your problem." I did not. You get very defensive, right? Whereas if that were the case with us, I'd be like, "Tell me more.
Yeah.
What's happening for you?" Right? Wow. Really good advice always. Um, and I know, and if you could just tell people, because I know this is something that you healed within yourself and now are trained to help people heal within themselves with this stick therapy. If you could tell people about the stick and all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things also too, I just want to say this within attachment work is, I mean, you can make some progress in 4 or 5 sessions, but it takes time.
Right.
And that's one of the things that give yourself grace and compassion with too, because it takes like little glimpses, little doses of it over time. You're starting this work at 35 years old. You got 35 years of stuff that you're working with, just as with any trauma healing. But that's just always something I like to let people know of too, is give yourself the space to be able to work on this. The stick that Marcy's alluding to, that's the modality that I'm trained within attachment work. So the stick acts like a attachment thermometer, where I'm holding one side and somebody on the other side of the stick obviously is holding the other side, or we're working with more of like an energetic connection if we're on Zoom. And how the connection happens within the stick is it's activating more of that right brain to right brain, where we're getting more into the body, we're getting more into the somatic, and we're working a blend of like internal family systems, so parts-based work along with somatic-based healing to get kind of this connection to begin to happen. And as we're processing, protectors that pop up that don't want to go there, that have a fear, have a story, have a protection mechanism that's kept them safe. Once we begin to work through that, what happens in the session is we start to get into restful connection, and we get into a place of well-being, because we're mirroring, or the practitioner is mirroring what the client's needing and what's
Mm.
coming up for them. And that attunement is being met. So if you think of like me in a session as caregiver and client going through their process, they're getting their needs met. They're getting that connection in a way that maybe they didn't get that growing up, or there was a misattunement there. And the
Mm.
body starts to like re-encode that experience. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to keep operating from the part or from the protector. I can operate now from the adult lens. So that's kind of the gist of the work.
I love how you just explained that.
Thank
Very cool. So,
you.
can you tell everybody how to connect with you and the best places and spaces to see what you're up to, connect with you, reach out to you, work with you?
Yes, I am Erin Nicole coaching pretty much everywhere you go, whether that's on the Google, the
The Google.
Instagram, the Google, the Instagram. That is pretty much everywhere. I have information on attachment work and all of that listed there too.
I will put the link in the show notes. Erin, I love and adore you. Thank you for spending this time. If you think this episode will help someone, please forward it. See you next time. Bye.
That's it for this week's episode of Mondays with Marcy. Be sure to subscribe to my newsletter at marcybaronclears.com. I also would love for you to follow me on your favorite podcasting app so that you don't miss a single episode. I'm Marcy Baron, and thanks for listening. I am so grateful you are here.